Test. Is this thing on? This thing working? The mic's working. All right, we're back to it. Twitter Tuesday, tons of engagement, all that and more here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols, your go-to Tennessee Volunteers podcast each and every day. Locked On Vols. It is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm your host, Eric Kane, formerly of 99.1 The Sports Animal in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now I'm just your podcast host here on Locked On Vols, but I write for the On3 site covering the University of Tennessee. That is volquest.com, and got a fun show coming up today. We're going to do a couple of different segments of engagement. We'll do a mailbag version of Twitter Tuesday. That'll be our traditional segment in segment one. And then I put a little tweet out there over the weekend, and I just said, hey, how we feeling? You know, 1 week into college football, how we feeling? A lot of you guys very active and engaging in that tweet. So I wanted to bring a lot of that onto the show. And then let's get a look at Pittsburgh. Let's get a little refresher course on who Pittsburgh is and what Pittsburgh is all about. That's what's coming up here on today's show. We still have to get into our PFF grades. It's coming up tomorrow. We'll hear from Josh Heupel and Pat Narduzzi as the week goes on. See, it's kind of wild. You know, you work, get up to the game, and then once the game happens in this industry, you turn over and have a ton more work to go through. So, you know, our game was on Thursday this past week, but, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, doing a lot of work. And so I've got a lot of work, you know, kind of planned out for the rest of the week here on Locked On Vols. Really looking forward to bringing it to you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is Twitter Tuesday right here on Locked On Vols, and we'll head first to the YouTube page. And like I said in the cold open, apologies for the microphone that was not connected yesterday. I know it sounded horrible, but appreciate you guys for coming back. Really, really do. Let's go over to the YouTube page, and a couple of guys and gals left some questions there for Twitter Tuesday. We'll go first to Mark. Do you think that Tennessee will have the number one ranked offense in the country? And if the Vols are 5-0 going into Alabama game, are they ranked inside the top 10? Go Vols. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, let's see here. If can Tennessee be the number one ranked offense in the country? Absolutely. A really fire type offense a season ago. I think they finished ranked 9th in the country. Need to score over 40 points per game, need to average over, you know, almost 500 yards per game, probably a little bit more to be ranked number one in the country in total offense. So can it? Sure, it can, but we'll see if it happens. I just think if you finish top 10 in the country in total offense, I mean, that's a heck of a season, right? I mean, that is a good offensive unit for that team. So, and if Tennessee's 5-0 going into Alabama, will they be ranked inside the top 10? Oh yeah, I think so. Or knocking on the door, maybe 11th, 12th, but that'll be a win over Pitt on the road. That'll be a win against Florida at home. Now that Florida win will look a whole lot better now after the win over a top 10 Utah team, and then a win on the road at LSU. I know LSU a couple of nights ago came down short. Man, special teams, such a big part of the game, but still, I think that'd be 3 impressive wins for Tennessee heading into that game if that were the case. Let's go to Benjamin. If I can find Benjamin and UT_Punkin. These guys want to know, hey, what's going on with Juwan Mitchell? Heard he was suspended from last season incident. Any information on that? Juwan Mitchell, I don't know exactly what is going on. I will say this. I don't know if he'll play this week. I don't know. I don't feel like he will. That's just me. Do I feel like Juwan Mitchell will be back in the swing of things very soon? Yes, I do. So I don't know if Juwan Mitchell will play this week. Josh Heupel's been very coy about the whole thing. He hasn't really said anything. He was on the sideline, stressed out, very engaged, looked to be healthy. I don't know what the situation is completely. I don't know if he'll play this week, but I do think that he will be back very, very soon to be a part of the mix for the University of Tennessee. So we'll just have to see there. And then finally on YouTube, Evan wants to know, it just scares me a little bit. I feel like I'm the only one that noticed. I'm not really sure why I wrote down Evan. Oh, here we go. Evan right here. Are you at all concerned about Tennessee couldn't push little old Ball State off the line? In what regards? You mean defensive line? Now we talked about this, and we'll continue to talk about this. I mean, sure, they should have got home a couple of times and gotten some sacks, no doubt about it. But they were getting the ball out pretty quickly. They weren't dialing up much pressure. And I understand the 4-on-4 or 4-on-5 Tennessee should just beat them. So I guess from that perspective, I would say so. But again, it's nothing to panic about. But as far as offensive line, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But offensively, I mean, Tennessee had over 200 yards on the ground rushing. Tennessee had what total offense in that football game? I think it was 500 something. Nonetheless, I mean, Tennessee did its part offensively in that football game. Tennessee total offense 569. Excuse me. So yeah, we'll see about the pass rush. We'll see this week for sure because there's going to be experienced offensive line at Pitt, and Tennessee will have to get back there no matter what. All right, let's go over to Twitter @_Caner and Locked On Vols is where you can find Twitter Tuesday each and every single day. And as I pull these up right here, we'll continue on to get to them. There we go. We'll go to Randy. Was it just me or was the audio on the pod a little out of work today? Oh, yeah, it was a little whack today, Randy. I know we chatted on there. Let's go to Rob. Would you get your thoughts? Would love to get your thoughts on Brian Kelly throwing elite neighbors under the bus after the LSU game. There was a lot of you guys that tweeted me that video clip of Kelly just throwing his guys under the bus. Told y'all, hey, when times get tough, it's always I'm going to point the finger, never going to pull the thumb with that guy. Yeah, he's a scumbag in my opinion. So didn't shock me whatsoever to see the fallout from Brian Kelly's first loss at LSU. So appreciate you guys tagging me in that. Hopefully you guys will now be aware that Brian Kelly is a douche. All right. Are you surprised that Keaton made as many big plays as he did on Thursday? He's a senior and has a little to no production here, but has all the tools. Could he be a wide receiver to make the biggest jump this year? We'll see. Again, I'm not really high on Keaton. I've not been really high on Keaton. He played well the other night. I liked him going over the middle, catching the ball, taking a big hit, breaking a couple tackles, and going and getting a lot of yak, going and getting a first down. I do think Keaton is who he is at this point. Against Ball State, he balled out. What's he going to do this week against Pittsburgh? We'll see. As far as the biggest leap, and Jimmy Holiday had a 52-yard touchdown the other night. Maybe it can be him. Jalen Hyde, obviously, if we're going to take him out of the conversation. We'll see. But Ramel Keaton making plays like that is what you want to see, obviously, and that's a good thing. All right, we'll go to Whit. Hey, I meant to ask you this earlier in the week, but forgot, hypothetically speaking, if Tennessee were to go 10-2 this year, and even though I don't see it happening, say their 2 losses come against one of the 3 non-Power 5 teams, Akron, Ball State, or UT Martin. What do you think the chances of Tennessee making the college football playoff would be? Because even with 2 losses against 2 of those 3, that would mean they would have beaten Bama and Georgia. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, man. A win over Bama and Georgia, would that outweigh a loss to Akron and/or Ball State and/or UT Martin? No, it would not. Tennessee would not. And again, this would never happen. I know you even said hypothetically this would never happen, but that literally would never happen. I mean, you lose to Akron, you lose to UT Martin, you lost to that Ball State team. Tennessee just beat by 49 with Hendon Hooker playing 2 quarters on a drive. I don't care who you beat. You could go beat the Tom Brady Patriots of old or the Buccaneers right now, Pat Mahomes, whatever. I mean, you ain't going to the college football playoff, in my opinion. All right, Majors, lack of pressure on the quarterback from Tennessee's defensive line. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I'm intrigued to see what they do this week as they will dial it up a little bit. Let's go to Kurt. I'm sneaking in 2 questions here. Tennessee needs to score blank points to beat Pitt. I said on the VolQuest podcast this week that if Tennessee scored 34 points against Pitt last year, keep in mind too, let's think about this. Hendon Hooker is who he is now. We know that. But at the time, he was a backup quarterback that looked horrible in the orange and white game. He comes in the second quarter. Jabari Small got hurt. Tyon Evans was hurt. You had a lot of Jalen Wright in that football game. Cade Mays got hurt. Cooper Mays got hurt in that football game. Tennessee didn't get the call on a spot. There were a couple of things in that football game that really went against Tennessee, and you still had chances to win the football game. I'm not trying to make excuses here. I'm just saying how close Tennessee was to winning that football game a season ago. I said on that pod that if Tennessee scores 34 points again this year, they'll win the football game. Potentially they could score more. I'll say Tennessee needs to score 30-ish points to win this football game. I mean, surely Tennessee's defense can step up and hold them within 30. Kedon Slovis is not a bad quarterback. Is he Kenny Pickett? Heck no, but he's not a bad quarterback. I'll say about 30 is what I'm feeling confident in. Does Florida's win on Saturday change your opinion about them, or do you think it was more about Utah's incompetence in the red zone? No, that was a good win for Florida. That was a really good win for Florida, no doubt about it. And props to Billy Napier. I mean, that deserves a lot of credit. Again, I'll continue to say Utah's been overhyped all offseason long. I think that Rising's a good quarterback, but there's not much help around him. I thought the college football playoff talk was a little premature for a Utah team, but credit Florida. I still think Tennessee can beat Florida for sure. I never said it was going to be a gimme. I never said it was going to be an easy game. I think Tennessee can still beat Florida. Nothing's changed in that regard, but Anthony Richardson is going to be a problem. So Tennessee's got to figure that out for sure. Quickly, we'll go over to Facebook and hammer out a few over here. Sambo wants to know, did the defense worry you after game one? I know it's Ball State, but at the same time, 0 sacks. I know we probably didn't show much because we didn't have because it wasn't a concerning matter. What do you say? Yeah, I've kind of already answered that for sure. I mean, Tennessee didn't have, and it's not like I don't think Tennessee was hiding out like, oh, I don't want to show this on tape. I just really think that it was such an easy football game, then why you don't need to do anything. Tennessee brought pressure off the edge a little bit. Tennessee ran no games up front, no twist turns, loops, nothing like that. No NASCAR package, didn't bring pressure from the second level. Tennessee didn't do all that. Tennessee will do that this week. Again, should they have gotten home? Should they have gotten some sacks? Should they have gotten more than 2 TFLs? 100%. I am not trying to diminish that. That is a concern, but is it the end of the world? I wouldn't say it is yet. So for sure. Lastly, we'll go to Ronnie. That's another defensive line question as well. All right. Guys, appreciate it. We'll go back and we'll check the board for a little Twitter Tuesday, replying to my how you feeling tweet from over the weekend. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Every single Tuesday on the show. It's Twitter Tuesday when you take over the show. Hey, this episode is brought to you in part by Fantasy Underdog. Let me try that again. Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest place to spice up the college football season. Easy to get started, easy to play, all while you're watching your favorite team. All right, it's so easy to play, and you can win cold hard cash in a single game. Underdog has the investment backing from Mark Cuban, Kevin Durant, Adam Schefter, and even more. They always have been focused on building superior products for the fun user experience, and the customer support team, it's top notch, the best in the business. Hosts should always implement the experiences that are always positive. And talking about Underdog Fantasy, it's been a really, really fun experience for me as I read off what I'm supposed to be telling you guys right now. I love it. I started playing a couple weeks ago. It is so much fun, guys. You should try it out as well. You can sign up with the promo code Locked On, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. So sign up with the promo code Locked On. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 for free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store and Google Play. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. Get in on college football pick'em action today at Underdog Fantasy. All right, guys, welcome back into Locked On Vols, your team every single day. Got a couple more Twitter Tuesdays that we need to get in. Completely forgot about these DMs. Go to my guy, K. Wayne 1800. I know the coaches say that they want to rotate more receivers and they want to spread the ball around, and they did spread the ball around a lot against Ball State. Do you think they will continue to do so, or will the rotation be trimmed back against tougher competition? Also, you expect Mitchell to play this week? Yeah, again, on the Mitchell, I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't think he'll be out long. I don't know if he'll play this week, but we'll see about Jawan Mitchell. I don't know. And as far as the receivers, yeah, it's a good question. They want to play more, but I mean, Brew McCoy, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyde, they're gonna play the majority of the snaps. Okay, that's just part of it. They're called starters for a reason. They're the best wide receivers Tennessee have. You want Cedric Tillman on the field as much as humanly possible. Brew McCoy looked really, really good in limited time against Ball State. Jalen Hyde had the touchdown. I could see a scenario where Ramel Keaton's worked in a little bit, Squirrel White's worked in a little bit, Walker Merrill's worked in a little bit potentially, maybe even Jimmy Holiday, I don't know. But they're not going to rotate just to rotate, I don't think. Like, if they need to rotate, if they need to spell some guys, if they want a different look, then sure. but they're not going to sit there and say, all right, well, it's 8 minutes in the second quarter. Second team, get in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously, Pitt's coming up. Florida's coming up in the SEC schedule. You're going to see more Brew and Hyatt's and Tillman. But last year, those three guys didn't come off the field. You know, the Jones, the Paytons, and the Tillmans. They don't want to be in a situation where that's the case again, if that makes sense. So a good question there. And we'll go on to the final one for I'm not saying your name on here. My guy chimes in here. What do you think of Mincy apologizing on social media after signing the shoe? Also, was the cap off? Also, how do they make Built Bars so delicious? The Built Bar Puffs, actually. Well, as far as Built Bars, I don't know, man. It's incredible. Go to Built.com right now, put in that promo code LOCK15, and you're going to get 15% off your next order at Built.com. You're welcome, Built Bar. That is not in the ad calendar today, but I gave you one. Built Bar Puffs are awesome. Check them out. Did he actually sign the shoe? No, he did not. The cap was not off. And why did he apologize? Well, he apologized because I'm sure he got blessed out by the Tennessee coaching staff. Do you know how easily they could have thrown a flag on that? I think it was awesome. You know, it made those kids' nights. I mean, how cool was that? Cole Kubiak down there, when I watched the replay, down there having fun, signing shirts as well. It was cool, but also it could have been flagged. And so that is why he apologized, because I'm sure he got rung up one side, down the other by the coaching staff. But not only that, you had Kamal Haddon running all the way to the far side of the end zone to see his family or to pose for a picture. This ain't the NFL here. There's not a camera in that end zone, okay? You had Jalen Wright running off the field, was it Jalen Wright? Yeah, you had Jalen Wright running off the field to go and celebrate, running onto the field from the bench to go celebrate when Dylan Sampson scored his touchdown without a helmet on. Like, come on, guys. Jerome Carvin said it best on Monday. We got to act like we've been there before. I love the Mincy thing. I thought it was awesome, but obviously it could have been a penalty, no doubt. No doubt about it. And then we'll go to James. Do you foresee a trend backwards towards stifling defenses in college football at some point in the future, or is it bound to keep being more and more offensive driven? It seems the current rules prevent the glory days of great defense. I just hate the way the game is going and wish the trend would go back towards a more 6-3 final scores. James, hey, I'm a defensive guy. I love defense. My buddy, you and I are in the minority, okay? I will say this. It's fun to watch offense. It's cool. Now as a fan and a media, if I'm going to cover a football game, I want to see points. I guess what I'm trying to say. I'm a defensive guy. I love defense. You can't hit anybody over the middle anymore, or you're going to be arrested for assault. It's ridiculous. Can't touch a quarterback. It's pathetic. Put flags on them. It's pathetic. I get your frustration there. If you can't tell the tone of my voice, it pisses me off too, obviously. So I think that it will soon shift back. Absolutely. I mean, over the course of football, things have evolved. The whole Wildcat quarterback, now the Miami Dolphins didn't invent that back in, what was it, 06, 07, when that became the fad in the NFL for a little bit. The read options, Butch Jones, Rich Rodriguez didn't invent that, okay? We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just continuing to bring back things and, just kind of like styles and fashion. Some things are back in style nowadays. I think it'll shift back a little bit, but right now I don't see it going anytime soon. You see the mold of the quarterback that the NFL wants and drafts and big athletic. That's why Will Levis, Spencer Rattler, that's why they're so appealing right now, because they fit exactly what the NFL caliber wants in a quarterback. So, we'll see. I say yes. It won't always be so offensive driven, but for right now, I don't see it going back anytime soon. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go to something I put out there on a Saturday or Sunday night. Locked On Vols account. I said, how are we feeling as we wind towards the end of the first weekend of college football? My guy, James Bailey, anxious to see another week and to start to get a feel for how this year will play out. Yes, sir. Jordan Jones, LSU still too close to call after watching the first half, not looking too sporty. Well, it turned out to be an actual good game. It was not a good game for LSU in that first half. I'm glad at least it was a good game. We'll go to Brandon Head. I originally felt disappointed, even though we won by 49 points. After rewatching the game, I realized how awesome our offense was. We played an awesome offensive game and literally showed nothing but base. We only took one deep ball shot. Yeah, that's because Ball State was bailing out 8 guys on third down. I'm excited to see this Pitt game. Well, you and me both, man. I'm really excited to see it as well. We'll go now to took care of business, which is something we struggled with in the first game of the year previously. Also optimistic, but need to see Tennessee beat a good team not named Kentucky to gain some confidence. My question for you, would that be a win at Pitt? Is Pitt a good football team? Would that be a big win? That wouldn't be a signature win for Josh Heupel, but that'd be a really good win for Josh Heupel, and so that's why I'm intrigued about this weekend as well. Jonathan Pritchett, probably a little more concerned about Florida. I feel that Utah was a tad bit overrated. You and me both, brother. Preseason rankings are such a guess, and it will all shake out soon. Yep, I couldn't agree more with that. Vol train, more worried about Florida than I was. Could still see 9-3, but 8-4 more likely. Yeah, I've always been in that 8-4 train for sure. But this team could be 9-3, no doubt. Real deal. Always going to be week one overreactions, but I feel Florida might be a little better than I thought, while Kentucky and South Carolina looked both unimpressive to me. I guess in yesterday's podcast, I said Kentucky, no problem. If I did say that, obviously they were hanging around with them there in the first half, no doubt. It was very unimpressive by Kentucky. And South Carolina, I've got a friend that's a South Carolina fan. I was like, dude, at least you got a quarterback now. He threw 2 picks, but goodness gracious, that was the most boring game. They both look unimpressive to me. Continue on with real deal. Georgia looks just as good as last year, if not better. Them and Alabama are still on another level. Georgia looked good, and that is not good. We'll go to Eric. Fantastic. 1-49. Defense got off the field on third down, dominated line of scrimmage. Young guys flashed, and no one that I know of got hurt. Yeah, for the most part, that's all accurate. We'll go to Drew. That UT-UF score is going to look like that Appalachian State UNC game. I don't know. Like, Anthony Richardson's going to be a problem, but still, like, I didn't watch much of the game. I saw the end. Okay, I was doing stuff during the Florida-Utah game. I was keeping up with him on phone. Per the stat line, he didn't look like he had a great day throwing the ball. It was fine. They didn't ask him to do too much. In reading some reports, it seemed like he missed a lot of underneath stuff to where he could have gotten a whole lot, but nonetheless, we'll see. I don't know if it'll be a shootout, but it could be. It could be. Florida game seems a lot more difficult after what they did last night. First things first, Pitt was very unimpressive. Will be a major disappointment if we drop that one. For Sawyer, Pitt looks beatable, but also tough. It's a tough road game. Florida looks like Florida usually does, and LSU looks more beatable, but we still have to beat them in Death Valley. So none of these games make any confidence level higher than they were a week ago. Kentucky and USC are overrated. Yeah, that seems to be a theme here about Kentucky and USC, or as you guys like to call them, USC Junior after week one. We'll go to Blake. Feel good about us. Georgia looked really good, though, and Florida looked better than I was expecting, hoping, but makes that win that much better on September 24th. I like it. Tyler says, like more than a few teams in the SEC, talked a lot of smack, have major problems all across the field. Well, yeah, it's week one way or the other. We'll go to Chris, less concerned about Kentucky, South Carolina, and Pitt, terribly concerned about Florida. We're going to dive into Pitt a little here in segment 3, but it's interesting. What about Pitt are you not concerned about? Again, I was watching the Tennessee game. I was covering the Tennessee game, and at the time of this recording, I have not watched Pitt. I have dove into the stats. I know the stats like the back of my hand. I know last year. I know the first game this year in game 1, but I haven't physically watched Pitt yet. That's coming. I know they gave up 5 sacks, which is crazy to me because they have a veteran offensive line, but I'm intrigued to know what makes them look unimpressive. I'll find that out, I'm sure. Don't get me wrong. Last one, we'll go to AJ. Florida will be tough. Florida will be a tough out. I'll be there at the game. Can't wait if they win a tough one. The imaginary roof will come off that place, and I want to experience it, no doubt. Gosh, you beat Florida for the first time since 2016, second time since 04, 05, whatever the case may be. It's gonna explode in there, guys. Thank you so much for your engagements. We did a mailbag and also just an engaging little Twitter topic over the weekend. Appreciate you guys. A whole lot of fun. Let's learn about the Pitt Panthers, shall we? Coming up next, right here on Locked On Vols. All right, boys and girls, got a final segment left here on this edition of Locked On Vols. We're going to be a little short and sweet here. Let's talk about Pitt. Of course, we talked a little bit about Pitt's on Friday's show last week, but and of course we did our scouting report back in the summer. Well, really during fall camp. But let's look at Pitt. Okay, one on a record 38-31 win over West Virginia. That was in the backyard brawl. 7 lead changes in that football game. 7 lead changes in that football game. 4 times the game was tied. So it was everything you want in a rivalry football game if you were obviously from a fan perspective. Pitt was outgained in this football game. West Virginia had 404 yards compared to 384 yards of total offense. Pitt threw the ball well with Kedon Slovis, 308 yards passing on 24 attempts. West Virginia, 214 yards passing. West Virginia ran the football 190 yards on that Pittsburgh defense. Ouch. That's why Pat Narduzzi, you're going to hear from him later in the week, but when he joined the Nation, he was not happy with his performance in his rush defense from there. Pittsburgh, who, Narduzzi was critical of Mark Whipple all offseason. I don't get it. He will never have a more successful season in his life. But hey, wants to get back to running the football, wants to pound and ground, baby. Well, you did it 38 times for, wait for it, 78 yards. Ladies and gentlemen, that comes out to, wait for it, 2 yards a carry. 2 yards a carry. That is not going to win you any football games. It's one game. Let's not overreact. But for a guy that talks so much smack about his offensive coordinator that took him to a 10-win season and an ACC championship, ooh, karma is beautiful, right? Karma is beautiful. Meanwhile, West Virginia ran the football for an average of 5.8 yards per carry. Gosh, that's not good. That is not good. I expect West Virginia to bounce back. Pittsburgh to bounce back. They're much better than what I think this one game indicated. Pittsburgh ran 62 plays. West Virginia ran 73. Third downs, Pitt was 5 of 12. West Virginia was shooting a 50% shot, 8 of 16 on third downs. West Virginia sacked Kedon Slovis 5 times for a loss of 39 yards. That's concerning with that offensive line. When you bring back 5 starters, Pitt had 3 sacks for a loss of 22 yards, tallied 8 TFLs for a loss of 38. West Virginia had 6 TFLs as well. Pitt did create 2 turnovers. All right, 1 fumble, had 1 interception, and possessed the football for 32 minutes and 31 seconds. I mentioned Kedon Slovis, pretty good day at the office, really, and that run game wasn't working, so they had to continue to throw it with him, but still not a whole lot of attempts. 16 of 24, 308 yards, and a touchdown. He was sacked 5 times. You have 3 running backs that got action, but it's interesting, and I still haven't even pronounced this guy's name correctly, and I apologize. Israel Abanaconda, I believe, 8 attempts, 15 yards. He had a receiving touchdown as well. It was Daniel Carter that got the start. He had 2 attempts, 4 yards in the touchdown. Maybe he got hurt. I don't know. But you had Abanaconda that played. Then you had Rodney Hammond Jr., okay? I remember him from last year. He's the guy that was the workhorse in this football game. 16 carries, 74 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What's interesting, though, is these guys, along with another, let's see here, Israel Abanaconda, Rodney Hammond Jr., and Vincent Davis. All 3 of those guys had over 100 carries last season. Vincent Davis, the guy I'm referencing right now, actually led the team 142 attempts, 621 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 2021. The participation chart from the West Virginia game last week for Pittsburgh says he played. He didn't log a carry. Maybe he's hurt. Maybe they're just easing him back in. I don't know. I'm intrigued, and I need to make some calls. We're going to talk to our guy, Nick, with Locked On Pitt later in the week. I'll be sure to ask him, but very intriguing. Vincent Jackson, or not, is it Vincent Jackson? That's his name? Yeah, Vincent Davis, excuse me. 142 carries last season, played in the backyard brawl, but didn't log a carry. Very interesting there, but they've got a lot of running backs they like to play with. But again, no one did really any work against West Virginia. Jared Wayne is a guy that's been there forever. He led the way with 89 receiving yards on Thursday, 3 receptions. Another all-name team here. Canada Mumpfield, 5 receptions, 71 yards. Gerard Bub Means. Does that sound familiar? Not the Bub part. Gerard Means, that should. Like, everybody kept referring to this guy as Bub Means. And I'm like, are you talking about Gerard? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, dude, he was at Tennessee like 3 years ago. He's now playing wide receiver for Pitt, 3 receptions, 49 yards. And then Gavin Bartholomew is the tight end that Tennessee will have to look out for as well. But that offensive line allowed 5 sacks, opportunities there for Tennessee's defensive line and front 7 to get after the passer. But they all are experienced. And one other note on the offense for Pittsburgh, I checked the box score and the starter sheet. They listed 6 starters on the offensive line. And Josh Heupel mentioned on Monday that they like to take a tight end out, put an extra offensive lineman in there. I mean, they truly are trying to shove it down your throat. So I'm intrigued. When I go back, I'm going to watch that first play from scrimmage. How many offensive linemen do they literally have out there? I mean, seriously. Let's look at the defense. Oh, boy, another all-name team. Let's do this one together. Okay? Habakkuk. Habakkuk. Habakkuk is what I'm going to go with. Baldonado. A season ago, he had 9 sacks. He had 4 tackles the other night. He is Kalijah Cansey, an experienced defensive tackle. He had 7 sacks a season ago and had a couple of QB hurries the other night. Very experienced in the front seven, largely in part led by those 2 guys. John Morgan II had a big game the other night against West Virginia, had a sack, a forced fumble, had 3 QB hurries. All those guys, Devin Danielson, Destin Alexandre, Devin Hayes, David Green, all those guys, experienced guys up front in the front four for Pittsburgh. But Cansey's a really, really good player, and Baldonado, those are the 2 names you need to watch out for. At linebacker, Sir, all-name team. I mean, goodness gracious, there's a lot of them. It's like I'm playing minor league baseball here. I'm trying to go over the chart. Sir Bosia Dennis, linebacker, led the team with 87 tackles a season ago, had 10 tackles against West Virginia. Bengali Kamara, 9 tackles, 2 PBUs. Shane Simon, 5 tackles, 2 PBUs. Those are your linebackers that started and primarily played in the backyard brawl. The secondary, listen to this, secondary was horrible against the pass last season. I got a note right here. The secondary gave up 264 yards on average per game. That was 12th in the ACC, but they were second in the country in sacks. So it's very interesting there. That doesn't add up. Typically, it's all tied together. You rush the passer, you help out the back end. Not so much the case there with Pitt in 2021. I say all this to say that pretty much everybody returns in that secondary. So they got some guys that have got to get better. Rashad Battles, a standout at safety. And then a guy that didn't even start the football game on Thursday, MJ Devonshire. He's the one that had the 56-yard pick 6 in the fourth quarter to give Pitt some breathing room. I'm not going to say that sealed it because West Virginia got the ball back, and I saw the ending live. And, was it a catch? Was it no catch right at the goal line? But nonetheless, the defense for Pittsburgh, not a great day. And we'll hear comments from Pat Narduzzi coming up later in the week, and he speaks on this. He was pissed about it. But traditionally a really, really good and sharp defense. Not the best day against West Virginia, though. So there's opportunity there to jump on that if you're Tennessee. But there are 6 guys returning on this defense that held all ACC honors a season ago. All right. Fun show. Really, really fun show. Thanks so much for engaging in the mailbag section, engaging in the Twitter Tuesday prompts. I'll continue to do those on social media over the weekend. We'll have a whole lot to talk about at the first of this week. And also, as always, thank you guys so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Subscribe on YouTube. We're over 3,300. Guys, thank you so much. The goal is 5,000. Maybe we'll get there by the bye week. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but we are moving right along. Can't thank you guys enough for that. As always, now check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle for Lee Sterling on Locked On Bets, all combined into the Ultimate NFL Preview. Search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. It's on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. All right, that is what she will do it here for this show. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back. Got a fun couple of shows the rest of the week. We'll hear for some guests. And always, you guys can get me at _Caner and at Locked On Vols. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk again tomorrow.